morning, everyone, and welcome to Unity Spiritual Center of Portland as we gather in consciousness, this virtual gathering of humanity. We welcome you this morning. I'm Reverend Lisa Davis, a senior minister here at Unity Spiritual Center of Portland, and I just invite you in to a movement of spirit, to a realization that every one of us, everywhere, is an infinite creation of spirit, and we gather in this movement of humanity, a movement of awakening. We want to welcome every one of you here while I'm looking forward to the time when we can gather in this space again, safely gather in this space. I recognize and honor the sacred journey we are already on. So we celebrate you right where you are on that journey. We welcome you into Unity of Portland, and we celebrate every moment, every breath along this way. If you're new to this community, I invite you to email us or to go on our website and join our email list at unityofportland.org. And we will add you to our list, and you'll receive some of the updates and things that are happening in our community. As a community, we gather with a mission. We are a progressive spiritual community transforming lives and inspiring people to make a positive difference in the world. You know, yesterday we learned that another Black trans woman's life was violently taken in Philadelphia. And I believe that every one of us gets to show up. Her name was Dominique Remy Fells. Her life mattered. And I believe every one of us gets to breathe into that and be a part of the lifting of humanity, saying her name, standing in that place, that recognition of the value. And I believe we get to stand in the journey of an awakening, of justice, of acknowledging our LGBTQ community and every being on this planet. So as we move into a time of anchoring ourselves, as we go into that place of quieting and calming, I just want to share with you that we're moving along a journey of awakening. We have a couple classes that'll be starting. One of them is our new series next week, The Sacred Journey, where we look at how do we want to live, how do we want our lives to be, and there'll be small groups that are opening. Please sign up for one. You'll hear more about them at the end of the service. I'll be doing our class, Empowering the Divine Within. If you have not anchored yourself in the realization that you are a creation of the divine and living from the powers that are within you, I invite you to join me on Tuesday mornings. Again, you can email youthed@unityofportland.org or info@unityofportland.org. So we're moving into a new consciousness, and that consciousness includes all of humanity. So I invite you to center, to move into the place of knowing that you know that you know that you are one with the divine creation of spirit as we take this time in meditation.
From the west
The well that will never dry is within. Breathing in fully, allowing an expansion of the awareness of the well that will never dry. The awareness that it lives within. I breathe this understanding in. Relaxing, centering. I invite you to allow my words to be your words. I am aware of the well within. I allow the expansion of this awareness to fill my being now. Continuing to breathe, to relax in to the knowing, the willingness to know that I know that I know that I am filled with that well of infinite love. I breathe that awareness in. I allow a deeper understanding of the well that never dries. Infinite guidance. I allow the expansion within my being as I rest in the silence of a greater awareness of the well that will not dry in the silence. And with that expanding awareness of this well, I recognize the living water that supplies me and sources me with all that I need to do all that is mine to do this day. And I allow the expansion of my awareness to move to those around me. That living water resides as them this day. Those in my community, in my state, in my country, and around this globe, I allow an awakening and an awareness of the well that will not dry and the living water that moves through it, vitalizing, filling every being, everywhere. And for this opportunity to live as an expression of this infinite love, infinite wisdom, we find gratitude, overflowing gratitude. And so it is. Amen.
Light your lamp from the flame that will not die, for the flame that will not die lies within Oh, the flame that cannot die shines within. Oh, won't you fill your cup? The well will never run dry, 'cause that well that can't run dry flows within. I know that well that will never run dry flows within.
This well that will never dry flows within. This morning, we're going to have a little different order of service, and I just invite you to welcome it in and to move with us. Today, this morning, marks the 45th anniversary of the Pride Parade here in Portland, Oregon. And you might think, well, it's been canceled. I disagree. I believe we move it into consciousness this year, and every one of us is a part of it. And if you've never had that opportunity, right now you do. You know, recently, Dr. Bruce Lipton said, your thoughts are not contained in your head. Your thoughts are broadcast out into the field. Now, this is the quantum field that we live and move and have our being within. And he said, the field is the sole governing agency of matter. The field is the invisible energy that shapes the matter that we are. Consciousness is a field. So we're gathering this morning in a field, an energy field of consciousness. But if you looked at it this way, he went on to say, everyone's head is like a tuning fork with a broadcast. You're broadcasting right now, right where you are. The more harmony, the more people sharing that harmony and that consciousness, basically, the more tuning forks, the more amplitude of the power. That's what changes the world. And then he said, let's get this consciousness up on a higher level. Only 0.1% of the population with the same tuning will change the world. We're seeing that in action right now. 0.1%. I invite you to join that. He said we can create heaven on earth by living in heart-centered gratitude and in awareness and the expansion of our awareness of humanity and the great value and worth, the wonderful worthiness of every being. Black lives, LGBTQ lives. We get to set that tone and that movement. And so I want to give you a little history today. Before we have our message with Cody Little Reese, and I am looking forward to that, I want to give you a little history because you may not know the history of pride and what the consciousness, I want you to think about consciousness as you hear this, because this is consciousness rising, and this is many times how it shows up. It shows up as a rising. The Stonewall riots, or the Stonewall Rebellion as it was called, were a series of spontaneous, violent demonstrations by members of the LGBTQ community in response to a police raid that began in the early morning hours of June 28, 1969, at the Stonewall Inn in the Greenwich Village neighborhood of Manhattan, New York City. So that was the beginning of a standing up, of a consciousnness that reached a collective that said, I have value and worth. Patrons of the Stonewall and others in the different gay bars and the other places that were there, and the neighborhood street people fought back when this violence broke out and the police were violent. The riots were literally considered to constitute one of the most important events in this movement, in this building. And so remember when Martin Luther King said riots are the language, these protests are the language of the unheard? Gay Americans in the 50s and 60s faced an anti-gay legal system. Very few establishments welcomed them in the 50s and 60s. And so this was a consciousness of separation, of this is okay and this isn't, and shifting that. And sometimes we don't want to hear it, and we don't want to know where we were within it. But the main thing is we get to awaken and open. And the raids on those bars were routine in the 60s. But here, there was a mass that happened, and the control was lost. And that shifted. And within weeks, the village residents had organized into activist groups. That's consciousness gathering to say there's more here. And so they were establishing, they said, we want places where we can gather and be open about our sexual orientation without fear. We want to live free without fear. And after those riots, what happened was, while there were huge obstacles, within 6 months, 2 gay activist organizations were formed in New York, and 3 newspapers were established to promote these rights. It was a beginning of a sharing of awareness into a body that had blinders on. And a year after that uprising, to mark the anniversary on June 28th, 1970, the first gay pride marches took place in New York, LA, and San Francisco. There were some other celebrations in Chicago and other cities, but that literally began the Gay Pride March. And it was done with a lot of controversy. Within a few years, though, gay rights organizations were founded across the United States and across the world. And you may say, why am I getting a history lesson? This is a history of the rising of consciousness, when a body of people say, we believe in great value and worth. Today, LGBTQ pride events are held annually throughout the world. Last year, it was an amazing thing to see a Unity minister, Reverend Ogun Holden, have the opportunity in his island in the Bahamas, out in the Caribbean, to lead the first one, and so that it's still gathering support and strength, and he did it while it was still illegal. So realize there's a movement happening. But in Stonewall 50, the World Pride New York City in 2019 commemorated that 50th anniversary. And on June 6, 2019, the New York City Police Commissioner, James O'Neill, rendered a formal apology saying, this wasn't right. And pride has evolved here in Oregon. It took about 5 years for the first official Pride Parade to happen in 1975. And there were only 200 people who organized this gay pride fair near Portland State University. And it began to grow and gather strength and have a movement of its own. But remember that, it began with 200 people and slowly moved. In 1977, the annual Pride Parade was added to the Gay Pride Fair, and it took courage in the early days to march in that parade. The controversy that year in 77 was when Portland Mayor Neil Goldschmidt proclaimed a Gay Pride Day, prompting a number of churches to publish an open letter in the Oregonian offering to help gays and lesbians repent. Look at where consciousness was. I have to say, thank you, God. New Thought was not a part of that and has always been open, affirming, and supportive of beings. But that was where consciousness was. And people still had to show up with strength in the midst of that. The proclamation also launched a move to have Goldschmidt, the mayor, recalled, claiming because he had acknowledged that and declared that a sacred day. By the early 1980s, Portland Pride celebration had become an annual tradition, and 2,000 people gathered. It was still a protest. And it was still dangerous for many people. They felt fear in marching in it, but it was still, they carried signs, and it was, end gay bashing, stop the raids, stop this. Allow us to live and gather freely. And that pride experience continued to grow in the city of Portland slowly. in the 80s and the 90s as very, very slowly the laws began to support. It was not a straight uphill climb. And the Oregon Citizens Alliance put several different bills in that were designed to block, again and again, gay rights and the movement. And as as people had the courage to stand up and say, I have great value and worth, which I believe is what humanity is being asked to do across the planet. I believe the idea of the innate essence of every being is being asked to be, for us to stand up for, not just our individual, although that's part of this, but every individual. And the movement went on. In 91, it had gotten up to 6,000 marchers, including supporters from small towns. And by that time, parents had joined the parade and said, we stand for this. We march in this. Someone had had a balloon-bedecked sign for their pot-bellied pig that read, yes, another pig for gay rights, really making a joke of the idea, of course we are for this. Of course this is a movement and a growing. In 92, the city officially upgraded the march to parade status, which allowed more support and more care. And it went to 8,000. And, you know, I want to share one story. And it was about two teachers in the 93 parade. In 92, they marched in the parade with paper bags over their heads to hide their identities because their jobs were at risk, and they knew they were. By 93, they marched without those bags on their heads and said, teachers for gay rights, proclaiming their pride at being lesbians and being teachers, at being and standing for the truth of that individual idea. Next, it went to veterans, and veterans led off in 94 when, even though the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy had been born, they stood up and said, we believe. And it's a gradual standing and a willingness to know ourselves enough to say, I understand a larger picture. By 98, an estimated 20,000 people had turned out for the Pride Parade, and it included churches. It included Catholics, Protestants, Jewish communities. It included communities saying, yes, we believe in something larger. And, you know, for a brief while in 2004, same-sex marriage was legal in Multnomah County after two county commissioners had changed the policy earlier in the year, allowing people to marry, and more than 3,000 couples got marriage licenses, though they were revoked after the Defense of Marriage Coalition Measure 36 passed that fall, which amended the Oregon Constitution to define marriage as only between a man and a woman. So this up and this down, this movement of consciousness, it happens within us and it happens around us. And when humanity has the courage to stand within a larger idea, something expresses and expounds and moves forward. And you know, it continued on. By 2010, there were 25,000 people. And it just continued to expand as it moved into the desire again and again for gay marriage to be legal, same-sex marriage to be legal. And in I know it became legal in 2014 in Oregon. And by 2015, the parade was 2 weeks before U.S. Supreme Court's landmark ruling that guaranteed the right to same-sex marriage in every state. And I have to tell you, for those of you who don't know, it was a delight to be here. People flew in to get married, to be here. People came from, they just were so thrilled, and it was such an honor to be a part of that. But just know it continues to grow. It continues to move forward, and yet there's still a protest to stop those acts of violence and to move forward. You know, this history of pride, of standing up, is a growing willingness to stand in one's own innate worthiness And we have the ability to be a part of the movement of history. William James said, no matter how full a reservoir of maxims one may possess, and no matter how good one's sentiments may be, we may say yes, 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 if one has not taken advantage of every concrete opportunity to act, one's character may remain entirely unaffected for the better. And as we celebrate this better, in a little bit, you'll be meeting Cody Little Reese. If you don't know Cody, Cody's grown up in this church. We've gotten to see Cody move through all of the youth programs, the kids camp, the Uniteens, the YOU. Cody has found themselves, vibrantly found an essence of who they are, and they're sharing. This year, Cody was elected in the Youth of Unity, the Northwest Region Youth of Unity, to the highest office, the regional representative, and is guiding and mentoring all of the YOUers as Cody grows into their divine essence. And so in just a moment, I invite you to welcome this being.
My mama told me when I was young, we're all born superstars. She rolled my hair and put my lipstick on in the glass of her boudoir. There's nothing wrong with loving who you are, she said, 'cause he made you perfect, babe. So hold your head up, girl, and you'll go far. Listen to me when I say I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't hide yourself in regret, just love yourself and you're set. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Oh, there ain't no other way, baby, I was born this way. Oh, this way. Oh, there ain't no other way, I was born this way. Right track, baby, I was born this way. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Don't, hey. Give yourself prudence, love your friends. Subway kid, rejoice in your truth. In the religion of the insecure, I must be myself, respect my truth. Yeah, a different lover, oh, is not a sin. Believe, capital H-I-M. Well, I love my life and I live this way. Oh, baby, baby, I was born this way. I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby, I was born this way. Oh, don't hide in regret, just love yourself, you're set, you're on the right track, baby, you're born this way. Oh, there ain't no other way, I was born this way, I was born this way. Oh, you know there ain't no other way, I was born this way, I was born this way. Yeah, yeah. a drag, just be a queen. Whether you're broke or evergreen, you're black, white, beige, Shola descent, you're lesbian, you're Orient. Whether your life's disabilities left you outcast, bullied, or teased, rejoice. Love yourself. Love yourself. 'Cause baby, you were born this way. Gay, straight, or bi, lesbian, transgender life, you're on the right track, baby. Born to survive, no matter black, white, or chola, or Orient man. I'm on the right track, baby. I was born this way. I'm beautiful in my way, 'cause God makes no mistakes. I'm on the right track, baby. I was born this way. Don't hide yourself in regret. Just love yourself and you're set. On the right track, baby. On this way, there ain't no other way. You know, baby, I was born this way. I was born this way. Oh, I know there ain't no other way, baby. I was born this way. I'm on that track, 'cause I'm born this way. I was born this way, hey. I was born this way, hey. I'm on the right track, baby. I was born to be brave. Oh, born to be brave. Born this way, hey. We're on the right track, baby. We were born this way.
That was amazing. Thank you very much. My name is Cody Little Reese, and I'm going to be talking today. I am 18 years old, and I'm standing up here in front of you as someone who grew up in unity. That is a really powerful statement to say. Growing up in this community was such an amazing experience. I have a lot of things I want to talk about today. The first one being this concept that we have in our society of binary and non-binary. So the concept of binary is two, and our society is built on a very binary structure. For example, we have the binary concept of male and female, and the binary concept of homosexual and heterosexual, or gay and straight. And I stand here today as living truth that those binaries don't work for everyone. I, myself, identify as non-binary in my gender. That means that I don't fit within the realms of the male and female concepts that we made in this society. I fit somewhere on a spectrum in between, and the spectrum means everything that goes between those binary concepts and even outside of that. I am non-binary, and I fit somewhere on that spectrum. What that means to me is that I also use they, them pronouns. Unlike the other pronouns that you maybe are more familiar with as she, her, and he, him, I use they, them because that makes me feel as though I am living my truth. And that's something I'm going to be talking more about, how I am living my truth. There's another social binary that I don't fit within, and that is the binary concept of straight and gay. And those binaries, even the binaries between male and female, we've fought to bring up one side of that concept of binary, how we are fighting for equal rights for women and fighting for equal rights for gay people. And that fight is still going on, and we've added another layer of that concept of in between, that spectrum in between. And so for me, I also identify outside of the concept of straight and gay. I personally identify as pansexual. That means that I am attracted to people regardless of their gender. There are so many sexualities that fit within that spectrum. And someone once told me, you're never fully gay and you're never fully straight, which is a very interesting statement. And that's up to each individual person to decide. Well, you don't get to decide your sexuality, but how they identify within that spectrum. But actually, the person who told me that was my parent. I grew up with 2 moms, and for a very long time, they identified as lesbians. One of my parents now identifies as gender fluid. So we're taking these old concepts of binary, and when we're bringing them into this world that is no longer fit in those binary bounds, we're seeing how much diversity and how much beauty there can be of people living their truth more wholly now that there is that open concept of spectrums and beyond the binary. One of the first times I ever asked people to use my new pronouns and my new name, Cody is my chosen name, I was at a Unity event, and it was a really important day for me. I was at a YOU event, and at that event, I asked people who I had met before, who had known me for a long time, to change how they were referring to me, use a new name, use new pronouns, and immediately I was met with respect. I was met with people trying their best to use the new pronouns for me, and I knew that this was the right place to do it, because Unity was so built on trust. I grew up in Unity, and I learned so many things from this community. From when in 2nd grade I would help rearrange the pillows, to 5th grade when I would help play the intro music at the beginning of Meeting Circle, to, as I stand in front of you now, regional officer of the Northwest YOU program. It's all of these things that I've learned in Unity have helped me get here, about leadership, about loving yourself and believing in yourself. And I learned that stepping up and leadership were very connected. And that's something that Unity has helped me learn throughout all of my years spent here. It was such a beautiful time growing up in this community that was so accepting and helped me lead to finding who I was truthfully. Everyone is human when we get down to it. Our identities, our gender, our sexuality, they're only parts of who we are. And though society often shames us for those parts of us, it's not everything who we are. We're all human beings making decisions, loving one another, and when it gets down to it, we are all humans loving and connected through spirit. And that is what counts. We are beings on this earth, and that is what connects us. The human experience is what connects us. There are so many people in this world who are discriminated against because of their gender, because of their sexuality. LGBTQ plus people are many times more likely to have violence perpetrated against them, including people of color who are LGBTQ plus and disabled people who are LGBTQ plus. It's a very unique experience to grow up with seeing some of that discrimination against my own parents, to stepping up in myself and seeing some of it against me. It was a whole life experience, and it's let me see the discrimination in this world more wholly and reflect upon ways that I, as a spiritual being, can fight against that discrimination. Being non-binary is how I live my truth. Society doesn't get to decide how I live my truth. That is a me thing. And my gender wasn't something I chose, and my sexuality wasn't something I chose, but it's something that I can choose to wear upon my sleeve, to inspire others, to not be ashamed to say who I am and tell the world my truth. And a lot of people struggle to find out what their own truth is, and that's okay. What is this world if it's not a bunch of people trying to figure out who they are? That's what this whole world is about. No one knows who they are, and if you do, awesome. You probably don't know some other part of yourself, and that's okay. It's okay to not know your gender or not know your sexuality or not understand people who identify differently than you. But I challenge you to learn and to look outside yourself, to learn about people like me. If this is the first time you're hearing some of this, that's okay. You're hearing it now, and I challenge you to learn more about it. Learn about different sexualities. If you've never heard the word pansexual before, it's a great time to learn. Look outside yourself, not just to the LGBTQ plus community, but to other communities who are hurting, who need your help. They need you as an ally to stand next to them and to let their voices be heard, which had often been silenced. It's very important to protect LGBTQ people, LGBTQ youth, and LGBTQ people of color. It is time to stand up and learn and to listen and to celebrate pride, which has gotten us so far, but there's still a long journey ahead of us for many minorities. Thank you.
Cody, thank you. Thank you. Wait, here. You are such a blessing. I can't even speak the words of the joy of being able to see you step fully into your truth, to step into who you are, and now to lead others in that. And I am just so honored for Unity to have been a part. And this morning, we're going to light a candle, and we're lighting a candle for all Unity youth. Usually, every one of our youth at the end of this service marches across the stage, and they've chosen a word that reminds them of the truth of their being, and they light a candle. And so, Cody, do you want to say anything? Yes. We'd love to have you as we light this candle from the Christ candle.
I've done this for many years. It's so long, at least over 10 years. And it was always such a unique experience. And I hope people watching at home with children can have this experience with me. And thank you. I'm going to light it from the Christ candle. My word is worthiness.
And I would invite every parent to ask your youth, what is your word that you would like to know and remember in yourself? And we support you in that worthiness. We're going to take a moment. Yeah. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Cody, we have a standing ovation from all of us in this spiritual community, acknowledging the light that you are and the light that you give and share with this world and with us. And it's time to receive our tithes and our love offerings, our ability to say yes to the movement forward of this spiritual community. I invite you to use PushPay, texting Unity of Portland, all one word, to the number 77977. That's 77977. You can sign up for regular giving, which is a wonderful way for us to move through the summer and through these months while we are still inside. You're welcome to send your checks. Many of you do. I thank you for the support you continue to give Unity of Portland as we move into knowing the divine love as each of us. It blesses us, it lifts us, it fills us, and it supports us in living the truth that we are and knowing our innate worthiness.
Standing strong in your pride, your power comes from inside. You're on the right track, baby. How we love your life. Don't hide yourself in regret. Be yourself and yourself. You're on the right track, baby. You were born this way. I am born this way. Hey.
on the right track, baby. So as we honor every youth, I do want to finish with Cody is one of our graduating seniors this year, graduating from Cleveland High School. I had the great honor of marching there with Cody yesterday and our Youth of Unity as they participated in the Black Lives Matter March. We recognize that. You want to come up? We just want to see you one more time. We just want to say thank you, Cody, and this beautiful, beautiful being who has shared their light with our community. And we acknowledge your graduation, moving into a more fullness of yourself and who you are. And we support you along that journey. And please know, you have a church home that loves you and sees the light in you. And we are going to I'm really working at it. Cody and I both have been working with Not Crying today as we celebrate this journey, and all of us, as humanity rises, I just want you to know that the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. And all is well. We know that this lifting power moves through us now. And so it is. Amen. And we are so grateful. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I'm going to move into our announcements. I realize is that what I'm doing?
Yes, that's exactly
Good.
what you're
Thank you,
doing.
Reverend Cindy. If you would like to stay on, we just want you to know and be aware that our small group program next week is powerful. It comes from the book, How Then Shall We Live? And it's an inner journey. It's called The Sacred Journey, but it's an inner journey of really saying, who am I? What gifts do I bring? And how am I going to show up in this movement of humanity? How do I learn more as we've been challenged by Cody? How do I show up more? How do I stand more fully? The class Empowering the Divine Within that I'm teaching on Tuesday mornings, 10 to 12:30, please sign up today or tomorrow if you'd like that link. It's $100 and no one will be turned away. And it's the foundation for loving ourselves, accepting ourselves, and knowing that that divine is within us. The 12 Powers is an ongoing piece that is taught in our youth and family ministry. It's taught here, and it's the way that I use to live my life, to center myself and say, I am faith, I am strength, I am love, I am wisdom, and to call these ideas forward. Our community outreach is ongoing. It is a wonderful opportunity to give to families in need. Community Transitional School, you can donate any of the items, the non-perishable foods like mac and cheese, popcorn, peanut butter, tuna, trail mix, beans, rice, applesauce, and they're still looking for shampoo and other items. 12 to 4, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are the drop-off area. I know that there's much work going on in the garden. If you'd like to join our garden team, please feel free to contact the office and they'll set you up. Also, our Coffee and Connection begins 5 minutes from now. So the Zoom link is in our email newsletter and also on Facebook. Have a love-filled week. Remember, every one of us gets to live in our truth, stand in our truth, and allow it to expand into humanity. One love, one life, one presence. Blessings.